you today? Glad you decided to drop by and join me. Just before I start this, I want to take a minute and just give a bit of an introduction to the channel. As the channel grows here, it is a wilderness experience channel, so it's not going to be focused particularly on bushcraft, although that almost certainly will be a big part of it. And it's not going to be, sort of a just about gear and demonstrating gear and so on. Although when the time comes, there'll be some of that as well. But I want to sort of help express a joy and the feeling of, pleasure and relaxation and just sort of help people see and recognize and maybe get interested in the vast majority of the beauty of nature, and there's some harsh parts as well, but really that's a big part of that is preparation and being ready. Part of that preparation is, and these are just two of the items that I almost never ever see anybody talk about, and for me anyway, part of the enjoyment of being out there is from the preparation, both because I enjoy doing the preparation, and also if you're well prepared and well supplied and so on, it's going to be a more enjoyable time. You're not going to get out there and not have something you need. You're not going to go less often because the things you need are so costly. Some of that you can make yourself or source other than just by purchasing it outright at a store. Two of the things that I use that I find are just invaluable, as you can probably see here, is a dehydrator, and this isn't the one I use. This is an old vacuum sealer. I brought this one here. I actually bought this just for this demonstration. I think it still works, but it won't when I'm done with it probably after today. The thing about vacuum sealers is that we think of them as being just a preparation for foods after the fact. We want to put something in the fridge or the freezer, but for me that's not really that is the case in a large way, but there's so much more that they're handy for. These are some of the little food packs that I make up when I'm taking food out into the bush with me. Vegetables. These things are relatively cheap at the dollar store, or not the dollar store, but the buck store. It's actually cheaper to buy it, even though it seems costly, than it is to make it. And then you vacuum seal it like this. That's a really good strong seal. You won't get a seal like that from a machine like this one, but that's a strong seal. It's not going to allow any moisture in there. You can see that's just vegetable, but it's really tight in there. As a dried vegetable, it's going to last quite a long time anyways, but in a package like this is going to last indefinitely. This material here is something that I've never heard of anybody talk about, and it's more of probably a food that a vegetarian would be more familiar with. They call it TVP, which is textured vegetable protein. Basically it's, if you can see it here a little bit, it's little granules of soy, and it's a very high protein content. It's essentially a meat substitute, I suppose, although I'm never going to give up having a steak, but on a traveling deal where you're backpacking or traveling light or trying to travel light, there's enough material in these two packages here. 2 teaspoons of this, tablespoon or whatever. These vegetables, there's probably, I guess there's probably 3 pounds of fresh vegetable in there before it was dehydrated, and now it's nothing. It weighs, I don't know, I should have had a scale here, but it's only a few ounces. The same with this material here. There's enough in here, taking a tablespoon or so per dish you make. These two things could last, a couple of weeks. So if you had some rice or beans or pasta, fine spaghetti type noodles or thinner soup noodles, simply because they cook faster than being smaller, you can pack an awful lot of food into a fairly small area, and it's not hard to carry with you. And there'd be enough food in if you had one other package with say some rice in it or something, that'd be enough food. Not much variety, but you know, you could get by for a couple of weeks if you were, you know, sort of on a pinch. Not only that, but it compresses things. It compresses them very tightly, as you just saw when I pounded it on the table there. So in addition to that, some of the medical supplies I carry, you know, you buy them in packages. You get these are the cold pack compresses, obviously cotton balls, and surgical gloves type thing. These things, I'll take a few of these out. Use some cotton pads in here as well that I've tucked in there. I might take one or two of these out, you know, several of these, 2 or 3 packages or pairs of gloves or whatever. And when I put these, you know, that small pack into one of these bags and vacuum seal it, it keeps it super compressed. You know, those things now suddenly we go from cotton balls, you know, to cotton balls, and they're just there's just no volume there anymore. It certainly keeps them completely dry, and it keeps them clean. So whenever you've got anything like that, that, you know, is a medical supply, these are a few other medical supplies. There's you know, there's a few. There's iodine in here, which is both a medical thing and a water purifier. There's a little bit of polysporin type salve in here, some band-aids. Those could actually go in there as well. Some rolls of gauze. So, you know, you can make up a very small package of medical supplies, and they would be really good. And after you've compressed them by vacuum sealing them, like I said, they're dry, they're clean, and they're compressed into a very small space. The problem, and the reason I have this here, is that they are not they're not made equally, you know, when it comes to these things, like everything. I've taped this over because I'm not into a sort of slamming any particular brand name. Just want you to know what you're getting into if you're not familiar. So I've taken the screws out of this. If I can get it apart now. Let's see if I can do this. And I want to show you the difference. There we go. In this unit here, instead of having an actual vacuum pump, what these have, and I'm going to try and get it right up close to the lens here. I can get it lined up right. Okay. If you look right here, that little thing, that's just a little fan wheel. A little motor on it, right there, little fan wheel. And it sits in front of this white plastic piece here, which is a little bit of a funnel sort of a thing, with a hose that goes down into where the bag goes. And that's all that creates the vacuum. It's just the air of this fan drawing a little bit of air through the hose and into the vacuum nozzle. Obviously, that's not going to supply a great deal of power. It's certainly not going to supply the power that it takes to to vacuum things up tight like this. Furthermore, to compensate for that, the bags that these things use are extremely flimsy. They're very, very thin. They're not as durable. They are more subject to being punctured or something, and it just doesn't seal very well. So when you get a better quality machine, this is the kind of thing you get. These bags are very, very, very durable. These are almost, well, not tissue paper, but they're very, very thin, almost like a thin wax paper type of thing. So that's the kind of thing you want to look for. You know, you can pick these up here, you know, probably for $30 or $40 at most big box stores, but really they're not really very practical for certainly not for a bushcraft type thing. They might be okay in somebody's kitchen when you just want to package off a little bit of stuff in the fridge for a few days. But, you know, as far as being effective for bushcraft and the type of thing that, you know, we might want to do with it, it's not going to do the job. So the proper ones, you know, in the bigger units, certainly they're more expensive. You know, you're probably going to pay a good bit over $100, $150 as a starting price for a more quality machine. And of course you can get better ones, you know, up into the sort of semi-professional, semi-commercial ones that are, you know, up and around $300 or $400. You don't really need anything like that. The one I use, and again, I haven't got it here because I don't want to show brand names particularly. That's not my purpose here. But they're, I think I paid just 4 or 5 years ago when I bought it, I paid probably just a little under $200 Canadian for it. It's been working great. I use it frequently. constantly almost. And again, you know, I use it for preserving food. I do fish and hunt, and so, you know, when I finished getting the meat together from whatever, you know, you package it. These things are such heavy bags. They're excellent freezer bags. You know, that's thick, tough stuff. So that they work really, really well, and I would have to say that they're one of my favorite tools to have if for anything I do in bushcraft, because they just have, you know, there's no limit to the number of uses that you can use for them. So, no, am I losing camera battery here maybe a little bit? So I'll try to make this short. Also, the other thing is a dehydrator. Again, this isn't really the main one I use, but these work well. I think the main thing you want to look for in a dehydrator is that this one has a temperature dial on here, and if you're just dehydrating things, you might want to keep the temperature down around 125 or 30 degrees so that you don't remove the nutrients out of it too much. But if you do want to do something like jerky or whatever, it does go up to 160 degrees, and that's sort of the magic number. So you want to make sure that you've got one that does that. This is, again, you know, about a $50 unit here in Canada. They work pretty good, actually. The only disadvantage to this one is that these trays here are not that big. They're plastic, and as they get heated and cooled over time, the plastic fatigues and it dries out, and it actually figures the top one I pick here is actually the best one of the bunch. You can see here on this one, you know, it's cracked here, a little piece is chipped out here. I've put a little bit of glue on it down here just to hold it, but you know, they don't last a great long time. This is probably I don't know, 2 years old or something. It gets a fair bit of use, in all fairness, but you know, and not terribly expensive in all fairness. But at the same time, you know, a better one is just going to give you. It's probably more economical to get a better one and do a good job and just have it than it is to keep replacing them. So that's basically it. Just an introduction to a couple of the things that I find extremely useful. And again, just to say that, you know, as this channel, you know, goes forward, it's my intention to try and bring all kinds of different helpful hints to people. I've been out doing this since I was a child. I live in the far north of Ontario, Canada. It's pretty rugged here at times. We've still got 3 feet of snow right now. It's the second day of April, and you know, the wind is howling outside, and you know, spring is still technically a long way away for me. But in every area where you live, the requirements are going to be a little bit different, of course. You know, I have a good friend who has a channel himself. He's been around for a great long time, and he has a ton of experience. The really big monkey one, and he's 2,000 miles south of me. So, you know, his videos are excellent, and they have all the things in there that would be pertinent to the location where he's living. When I watch it, I think, you know, that's awesome, but when I find tricks that he knows that I'm trying to copy, there's always an element of adjustment to it to make it work here, you know, a little bit better for me, because I'm dealing with temperatures that are minus 40 degree temperatures Fahrenheit. We have temperatures here that are in the minus 50 to minus 52 range occasionally. So, you know, you got to take it all with a grain of salt, fit it into your own style, your own location, your own usages, things that are more practical for the way you do things. But at any rate, just that's about all I've got for this trip, and enjoy the outdoors. That's really what I want to convey to the more of the people that probably some of the people who haven't, and children too, that haven't really had the opportunity to get out. Hopefully I can show some fishing and some outdoors, some camping, certainly definitely some bushcraft, and just get out there and enjoy it. So good luck, and we'll talk to you again soon.